bookstore. We're also a small publisher. We have our debut novel by the individual Wang already out. And yeah, we also program exciting events. We have a musical poetry 3-day next week, next Sunday, and we have a podcast doing Kafka coming out. So please come and visit us, and yeah, I'll leave the rest to Stine An.
Thanks so much. Give it up for Heather. Sisters for hosting us tonight. Diane at the bar. We also have a special mimosa that you can wear to be on theme with summer crush. You can fill in the letters the vowels or consonants or vibes. Thank you so much for coming out to celebrate the launch of Summer Crush, my debut chapbook. I'm really excited for it. Did anyone have a summer crush, or are you going through a summer crush? Or is it well, tonight we have a great lineup for some genre-bending readings and performances about crushes, depression, desire, and perhaps snails. We have copies of the chapbook and a broadside available for sale. And there's a postcard for a translated poetry function called Today's Funny Vocabulary that's coming out. I didn't have the copies to bring with me, but if you're interested, please take a postcard. They are free. And at the end, we also will have some cake. We'll figure out a creative way to split it among all of us. But I think it'll be fun. It'll be a fun way to celebrate. So I will introduce our first reader, who will open up for us. Lydia Liu is the author of The Problem of Deer, Finishing Line Press 2025, a finalist in the Poetry Society of America Chapbook Contest selected by ID Miles. Her recent work has appeared in Cimarron Review and Poetry Northwest. A diasporic poet of the Chinese and Singaporean heritage, she writes about the strangeness of the world as it moves through the self. Beyond the page, she explores the intersection of poetry and musical improvisation. Find her at lydialiupoet.com. Please welcome Lydia.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stine, for having me and for bringing us together. I feel like it's about to get really hot in here. I will, I'll try my best to contribute to the hotness of the experience. So, when Stine asked me to read for this book launch, I was just simply thrilled. And then Stine told me what the chapbook is about. It was about summer crushes, desire, basically various kinds of hotness, and also Kafka. So I'm excited to respond to all of these things. So first up we have summer crushes and the age-old theme of unrequited love. So this is Fig. Upon returning from a walk and finding in my mailbox a letter from a man I loved, I was seized by a sudden and cosmic craving for figs. Fresh figs. Their scent of dew-covered milk grass in the early hours of a midsummer day, still cool from the breath of the night, their luminous pink flesh pregnant with a galaxy of celestial seed, enshrouded in a solemn purple that balloons like a foot off the Turkish shalvar, and when penetrated, overpowers the tongue of sweetness. I spent hours dreaming of them. In my dreams, the figs were darker, richer, and more exquisite. A delicious longing filled the empty caverns of my mouth. I made no plans. It was was as if my uncomplicated love had absolved me from a months-long yearning for raw fish, a reminiscence of sweet bread, a memory of first bite into hours grazed pork belly at my childhood dinner table, all that a father's love amounted to, and a dull ache as I unlocked the mailbox, a thick wasp, erupts, wingless, and peer into the insatiable darkness of loin and gut. Loin and gut. In the Book of Rites, Confucius declared these the pinnacle of human desire, yet provided no further instruction. Two unrequited love poems. Hymn to Hair. In the morning after, Lady Horikawa wrote about her tangled hair. Later, the poet ordained as a nun. In Barcelona, I saw a painting by Miro, Hair Pursued by Two Planets, or Cabell Perseguit per dos planetes in Catalan, and bought it for the bathroom. Through metaphor, I wield a power I do not have. That weekend, Gloria leaves sea waste on the beach of Barceloneta. What is the meaning of clean? Every now and then, a stray eyelash interrupts my processes. The other day, you tried to Google eminence in the sun. There was no internet. I liked your hair long and dark, and even how it does not mingle with mine, how it creeps up your neck like wisteria, trained to the walls of that summer house, then lower than you can see, slowly strangling its foundations. Thank you. So I'm also going to, so the two poems I just read are from a chapbook that came out earlier this year, and I'm going to read, and yes, please buy this lovely chapbook, and I'm going to read something more recent, and I wasn't thinking about Kafka when I wrote this, but I think I was, because Kafka's everywhere. So here goes. Writing session. In the dimly lit room, the novelist lifted the novelist's head from the yellow pages covered in the novelist's handwriting. The novelist had gone to another world, temporarily inhabited another's body. The return hadn't always been successful. Sometimes the novelist returned as a cap or a teacup, and once as a pair of cobalt blue vases at the door of the house for welcome. Oh, to not come home in one piece. Once, the novelist spent days in the body of a deer. The deer was a doe who had just lost her young. She was frantic, turning up at gardens and backyards that they have frequented. She ate and slept fretfully, dreaming of white tufts. She prayed that the juvenile's coloring will keep it hidden from coyotes, hawks. But she feared most of all the trucks. They showed no mercy, and the juvenile was too young to remember the safe paths between thickets. When the novelist returned, it was earlier than expected. The novelist returned with hands on the wheel. A very large, pale body flashed across the novelist's eyes, which registered as a doe, which temporarily registered as the novelist herself, for the novelist was the doe. She became the novelist, who became the doe, and in stepping on the brakes in that moment, out of pure animal instinct, she saved the one life that was her own. Thank you. pleasure to introduce the next reader, Yoon. Hope is a writer and translator from Seoul, working across fiction, theater, and video games. She's a member of Circle Rep's Writer-Director Lab and incoming member of the BIPOC Critics Lab at the Public Theater, and her poetry translations are forthcoming in And So On, Workroom Press 2025. Upcoming teaching engagements include the Scarlet School of Radical Attention and Tiny Spoon magazine, where she will lead workshops on video games and narrative agency. Let's welcome Hope.
Thank you so much, Lydia, for the lovely scene, for bringing us under this really exciting group together. So I'm actually reading a section from a draft of what I call that novel, which is that thing a lot of writers have, that is like the project that just rots away in the hard drive forever. And I'm so sad to report that this excerpt unfortunately contains a little more depression than crush. But nevertheless, the section follows the narrator's summer of transformation, and the title of the project is Secret. It is an inquiry of mirrors, the research project I launched myself into at Tees. Something oblique, proximate, and yet with a clawing lust for truth. I comb academic journals in psychiatry, parse maze like Wikipedia pages, click through more forums on more disorders than I'd ever encountered in my lifetime. I begin by familiarizing myself with the diagnostic criteria. I imagine this will take me 5 minutes, but it turns into a whole day. Every technical term I don't know, a hyperlink opening into another world. The terms major depressive disorder and clinical depression are used interchangeably. The disorder is considered common and serious. In order for a diagnosis to be made, the patient must experience 5 or more symptoms out of those outlined during the same 2-week period. At least one of them must be either 1, depressed mood, or 2, loss of interest or pleasure. It takes me a while to comprehend the necessary conditions, which sound more like a logic puzzle than a description of life. The conditions necessary for a destination to qualify as my next home. It must be far. It must be different. It must be long. What exactly this last part entails, I'm not sure. No part of the globe is excluded from consideration. I spend 4 hours scrolling on forums for modern nomads, people who have forsaken some homes for others. When I get bored, I go to a website with practice logic puzzles for people taking the LSATs. I drench myself in the sequencing of numbers, 5 cars in 5 different colors, menu items adding up to odd prices, inquiries which serve nothing, create no value, but I want to believe that my brain isn't mush. I can think. At night, I hold on to this like a mantra. Come morning, it's a toss-up. I'm either full of dreams or fully animal. When it's the latter, I regress. I can do nothing all day but eat and shit. I moan about this to the internet. The internet tells me I should take care of myself, that it's okay to have one of those days. I don't find this comforting. I want the world to have higher expectations of me. I come across the definition of seasonal depression, which sounds fake, so I consult a scientific journal. Seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, is a recurrent major depressive disorder with a seasonal pattern, usually beginning in fall and continuing into winter months. Those most at risk are female, are younger, and live far from the equator. I am female, and I suppose I'm younger. I suppose I live far from the equator, too. I look out the window to remind myself of the outer world. Summer has ripened into abundant maturity, and the air outside is yellow with heat. I look up the mechanism behind seasons, which I remember learning about in middle school science class. Seasons don't, in fact, have anything to do with being closer or farther away from the sun. No, it's got everything to do with the angular approach of light from sun to earth. How direct is it, how oblique, and how crude. In 1518, a woman called Frau Trophea begins dancing fervently and uncontrollably on a street in Strasbourg. Trophea dances for a week straight. Dozens join, and a month later, the dancing plague has claimed hundreds of victims, collapsing or dying from stroke. There is no stopping them. It is one of the earliest documented cases of mass hysteria. Who, I want to ask, isn't sadder when the weather is poor? In 1992, Richard Bentel writes a proposal to classify happiness as a psychiatric disorder. It's a statistical anomaly, something characterized by measurable behaviors associated with certain impairments. Happy people make stupid decisions. Happy people stress other people piece is written as satire, but I read it very calmly, very seriously. Every day I have one of those days, and I'm convinced the only way to get these days to stop is to get the earth itself to stop spinning. The dancing plague of 1518 has now inspired a number of contemporary art pieces, from film to literature to dance, dance, dance. So it would not be crazy for me to suggest that the dancing plague has infected across the centuries, that it continues claiming victims even now. If the earth stops spinning, the effects would immediately cascade around our known world, masses of land and water thrown into each other and hurled carelessly eastward, presumably bringing me with them, presumably bringing me the rest. It occurs to me that I might find a new home where the winters are gentler and summers longer. The thing about mirror images, we know what they are. We take them for the truth anyway. Time is ticking, and I count my doom with the number of missed calls on my phone. Mom, 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 I read the list out loud, mom, 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 until I hear the hum of a cicada blaring through my childhood. That strange feeling when you're on a beach playing twisty with your best friend and all you can see is sand and water, but then you hear it, and then you wonder, don't those things live on trees, and aren't the trees far away from here? Listen, you can dance yourself to death. You can sometimes do nothing but. What if we went home, I asked T. T gives me this look, like, where is home? I say, a place I'm from, a place you've never been. If the earth stopped spinning, we would dance, dance, dance. I now remember the sun winters, cold, yes, but forgiving. So common and so serious, this life. The coldest thing until I stop asking why. I start asking why not. At night I cling to it like a mantra. Why not? Why not? Why not? Come morning, the light is all air, no water, and the answer is right there. That no matter how extensive your research and rigorous your science, there will never be explanation enough for image. So it's going to be beach and cicada, it's going to be far, it's going to be different. All this because why not? Because it'll be far, it'll be different, it'll be welcoming. I'll look into the mirror and I'll see nothing. I'm really happy to introduce the next reader. Zephyr Press is a translator from Spanish and an editor at Zephyr Press. Her translations include Lydia Liu poetry collections, A Blind Salmon and Diasporic Teas, as well as Augusto Higashiro's novel, The Enlightenment of Kutsuro Nakamatsu, which received the Alta First Translation Prize. Please welcome Jennifer.
Hello. It's very exciting to be here. This is my first year at Access Sisters. And I remember hearing you reading, Steve, your from this chap last year at last book, I think so. Yeah. It was very exciting to be here for the launch of the book as it's born. I'm going to read a couple poems from A Blind Salmon. These are translations of poems by the late Chinese Korean writer Lydia Liu. These will also tap more of the depression, makes of desire vein. And for the first poem, I will read both the original and the translation. In keeping with the name of this space, this is Spanish accented by German, and then I will read my translation accented German and English. All of us have accents. And then I'll read the poems just in English. Poem for Geo Franco. Der Mensch, das dunkle Tier, eso significa más o menos que yo, mujer, medio leona, medio bestia. A pesar de los zapatos tumbados en mis escaparates, tengo un pesar inmenso en mi práctica. I wish I could be a lioness, I, girl without shame. I wish I could eat all the Russian soldiers, a war I never met. Cocino gallinas mientras miro pomos azules y deshojo plantas de ajíes y busco en la melena antigua de mi animal hembra inventado que escapa en las noches y succiona leche de mi luna. Ich möchte mejor como las águilas mexicanas. No, no, mejor como un piloto de avión, juntada de 100 milímetros. Home for bureaucrat. Der Mensch, das Dunkel hier, that means more or less that I, woman, half lioness, half geese, despite the shoes purchased from shop windows, have an enormous sorrow pressing on my trachea. I wish I could be a lioness, I, girl without shame. I wish I could eat all the Russian soldiers of war I never met. I cook chicken while gazing at blue knobs and shuck ahi plants and search the ancient mane of my invented female animal who escapes at night and sucks on milk. Ich mochte diese Frieden, der nur Nachten auf Home. Ich mochte ein Messer unter mein Bettkissen und der Mond in Stücke schneiden. I want to fly, like blue bottles. No, more like raptors. No, more like bees or hogs. No, more like North American eagles. No, more like an airplane pilot meeting my misfortune. And this one doesn't have a title. There, in the printed translation, I made a choice that I immediately regretted, which is using the word gypsy. So I'm going to read an alternate in the other version of the book. Why do your differences dispel my muscles' vitality? I am not the faithful maiden I appear to be. I want to be slathered in saliva, there where the body can't decide whether to bleed or die, where an African drum burst the Danube onto my ankles. My house balloons when I recognize myself, is scarf-eyed, inhabited between catcalls and string moons. I want a sky blue guitar, not red birds. Slav, I'm tired of you. I want the glacial sun of my own humanity, awake and wait. Maybe Kiev is cleaner, so blue like a sea of diluted turquoise. I drink of this spilled wine. I've died in so many untranslatable letters. What's your land like? Valiant, human, striving like an Aryan, a Jew, or a Mani person. The women over there are less jealous. They don't count the peas fallen into the dustpan, don't warm their backsides in the January sun. No, I don't know how I got caught in this tangle of language, braided syllables, labyrinth of M's, P's, intrusive gods. I'll never go to Kiev or go back to Moscow, I promise. And then I'll close that with one poem. So this is the bilingual edition. This poem is on the same on both sides because we wrote it in English. So on sameness. In the circle, sweet circle of intense immortality, where is my China? The land with no owners, the face is not repeating itself. The voices are a drum changing the way the sun flies. The perspicacity of the five senses, five streets, five calamities. But the West Eye has more intentions than faces. They will fill the Chinese emptiness with anger and cold desires. The shell egg is broken. That's not love, not the epic tension. How can a cross in a Kiev's beautiful church run down the South American river? A kind of desperation. Who is fucking whom? Who is crying the bloody waves of a shacked Pacific Ocean? I don't want to move, don't want a dog, don't need a maid, don't need the imagination of a southern goodness. The colors of water. Fedor's beautiful eyes still move my heart. Some days with Pablo made me happy. And the street's corner after 43 years, it's the house of the beginning. I was born in this city. This city almost conquered my soul. I want to keep my mother alive forever. I want my brother and my sister back in the Pedro and Santos. That's it. Wang, who holds a PhD and MA in African and African American Studies from Harvard University and a BA in Liberal Arts from New College in Florida. Prior to joining Wang's faculty, she was an assistant professor at the New School and the University of Minnesota.
It's a huge honor to be here supporting the release of Stine's Chapbook. And I don't know if you all know this, but we were roommates, 1 Hancock Street, Somerville, Massachusetts. We hosted Banu Capital in our grungy house, and I bought new purple towels for hosting Banu. So this piece is a piece that I wrote around 15 years ago, and it is a B-side of my Alien Daughters collection. It didn't make the final cut, but it's called Kafka the Friendly Ghost. And Kafka had a lot of crushes that he neurotically could not consummate. But we'll just say Kafka's my crush in this. Do you talk to dead writers? I do. Dear Kafka, Kafka is my friend. Kafka is friendly. Kafka is my friendly friend, laughs so loud, tall and afraid of dying. Kafka was a bundle of fragments, struggling for cohesion, and so am I. Kafka's strength and vision were stronger than mine, and so I am really doomed, unlike Kafka, who is just psyching himself out. Kafka's oeuvre is in pieces, editorial asides that note 2 missing pages. Kafka, you hated everything that came from your pen, and yet you read your stories to your sisters, your friend Max, and laughed so hard you could barely continue. Kafka, it's amazing that you wrote at all with all that resistance inside you. Kafka, why did you fill up notebooks? Over 500 pages of letters to police. Kafka, I'll be your father. Absorb all your love and let you take care of my old man body. Set me into the bed and kiss my cold forehead. You don't have to jump off the bridge. I love you, son. Kafka, I love your scraps, your half-thoughts, brilliantly unrealized. Kafka, I know how hard it is to finish when you're so unsure of yourself. Kafka, the trial may never end, and that frightens me. Kafka, I see you. I am watching, going under and over a table and deeper into your world. You can't even imagine how much of a world it is, and you only left us little bits of it. Kafka, I am living in the missing pages of your book. You will never find me there if you emerge from the grave, or perhaps you're watching me. Kafka, watch me. Kafka, I want you to. Tell me how I'm supposed to be. Use the Ouija board to write me a 600-page letter that reveals all of it. That the vacant God came and her name was me. You are my friend ghost. Since I am living in your blank spaces, I have so much room here. Not like my cramped $80 porch room in Baltimore. Kafka, you wanted to be complete. Is that really what you wanted? Kafka, I understand that partial feeling. At night, I think I can touch the incompleteness and it hurts. Kafka, you were bored at synagogue and were skeptical of religion when you were young. Kafka, I could never pay attention during Mass as a child. I felt bad for not believing and can only think about donuts while in church. I can't sleep either. I wake up in a frantic panic thinking nightmarish thoughts about the law and penal system and cannot go back to sleep. Kafka, I have a confession. I love you because you were a failure, aborted your stories prematurely, left them unfinished, or renounced them completely. Like me, like the 2 manuscripts I abandoned this year right as I was completing them. Through you, Kafka, I leave my strivings and ambitions behind. I abdicate. But Kafka, you were a failure who is now surgeon father blow his money on clothes and presents, beg you to come to Vienna, ask you for money while I woo you with my youthful rebelliousness and decadent lifestyle? Do you need some sleeping pills? Kafka, we only have your letters because you burned the ones addressed to you. In these pages, Milena is a ghost, and if I am Milena, well, it's time for you to play the ghost. Kafka, I would never honor your wishes. I would never burn your manuscripts, your journals, or even a scrap from you. Like Max, who saved everything despite your instructions. You gave them to Max even though you knew he wouldn't destroy them. Maybe a little part of you wanted to survive? Like a ghost? Kafka, the friendly ghost. Introduce Stine An, who is a poet, translator, performer in New York City, whose work explores diasporic poetics, experimental translation, and virtual performance. Her poems and translations appear in Best Literary Translations 2024, Poem a Day, Poetry Daily, Words Without Borders, and elsewhere. A 2024 NEA Translation Fellow, Stine is the author of Summer Crush, Give It Up, and the translator of Today's Morning Vocabulary by Yoo Heekyung. Let's give it up for Stine.
I printed this out for Jackie this morning. I just love Kafka and Friendly Ghosts.
On Casper's body.
On Casper's body. Thank you so much. I give it up for the readers and performers. I forgot to mention Kafka, but he was for me the one who started it all. I think I've always really liked books, but reading Kafka's short prose pieces in high school, they were translated by I believe. It was the first time, and I think it was a first piece called The Trees. It went something like, for rare like tree trunks in the snow, they seem to be resting smoothly, as if one could push them away with a small shove. No, one cannot, for they are firmly attached to the ground. But lo and behold, this too is sheer silence. And I think for me, I felt like I could feel what the words were saying, but I couldn't fully understand them. It was my first experience of being sort of bewitched or enchanted by language. And then I ended up studying conflict in college. And then I became a translator, so it makes sense. And I think Jackie is telling me to strip. Yeah, I actually need my phone, so I'm gonna. I feel a little overwhelmed. I started. Jackie told a story about Bonnie crashing on our couch, and I actually didn't know who she was. But now I do. And Jackie, there's something about being raised with Jackie where I was sort of encouraged to do poetry. That was back in 2015 or so, and so it's been about 10 years. So it feels really special, exciting for me to share this chapbook with you. And I ended up writing about desire because I feel like Kafka, there's a lot of desire in Kafka's works. It's sort of this energy that drives a lot of his pieces. There's also a sense of failure, which I guess brings me to crushes. And I did go through like a really intense summer crush last summer. And I had this realization about crushes that they're really not about the other person, they're more about you, right? But motivated. It's a good course for brochure. Yeah, I'll read you some poems from my debut collection that will be coming out next October that are also about desire. This one is called Root After Talks. Do I like okay, ammo, love, the untruth, magic harmonies, phosphorescence, ancestor kids and artificial getting along, morning florals? Do I dislike, hate, and think of odious runes that sour, sorry, threadbare tongues, fishing taboos, cricket gospels, and every single Catholic home? Law. I do not know, have not experienced, fail and only care about death, endings without ambition, missing refuse, slow beauty and sunset snails, reclining in a trichinelle. I wrote that during my MFA program at Brown, where I allowed myself to do an experimental translation of Catalys's poem, the one that's like, I love and I hate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it was, I allowed myself to explore my relationship to the Korean language, and I didn't really understand what came out, but I really liked it. So that's what I shared with you. And another poem where I incorporate literary translation or experimental translation. You can also buy it as a broadside there. That has a part of the poem, and I will read you the full poem. B-list. B equals B, B equals flat, flat as in flat, B as in blue, B as in tween, B as in failure, B as in not quite, B as in B, B as in busy, B equals B, P, B as in rain umbrella emoji, B as in anti, B as in not, B as in tombstone, B as in spend, B as in measure, B as in critique, B as in divide, B as in maintain, B as in bitch, B as in queen, B as in flight, B as in low, B as in sad, B as in whole, B as in root, P as in unknown, P as in to be continued, P as in begin. And I did come out with this translation. It came out July 29th, so pretty recent. I learned so much, and this has really changed my life. I never thought I would do literary translation, but it was scary because, like many diasporic people, like I have a very fraught relationship to the language. I think that is why I ended up studying literature or becoming a writer. But it's this poet. He runs a poetry bookshop in Seoul called Wang Cynical. We've become friends through this literary organization project, and what I really appreciate about him is that he really invited me back into the Korean language and into Korean poetry. Initially, I was really daunted by his poems because I didn't really understand them. I was like looking up every other word, and his poems were more lyrical and very different from mine. There's a lot of feelings in them, whereas I think my own poetry I tend to get to feelings more in an open way. But for this work, it's all about feelings, and I think while translating this collection, I learned to not fear feelings. And what do you get from really feeling them, and could that be a form of resistance, just feeling your feelings? So I will read one poem about unrequited love. This collection is one of the main themes. A lot of the poems are written in his like 20s and 30s. And I will give you a choice. There's one poem about peonies, and there's another poem about like a deluge. Peonies based on applause. Deluge. About the same. I'll read both. by sticking my body against the wall. And so, to call them peonies, I don't even know what those flowers look like. They are not, and even more so, they are not plants being box in mind like a ball. I'm so very curious about the things that you planted, and I wonder why I'm so sick of such peonies. You would have brushed off your hands loudly after planting them. Those flowers, the peonies you said you planted. When you are here, and just like that, when I think you are here, I shake and hang the laundry out to dry. I take a break from my cigarette and sit exactly as I am after inspecting all the nooks in the blanket, tilting my head to follow the sun that tilts all day. I listen for you and lift my heels in the direction of your arrival, lift up and bring down my arms slightly. When you know even when a shape resembling you approaches, I become a lousy reader who opens a book only to put it back down. In that moment, I wonder how to place my hands, how to laugh, how to mourn the love history. And so you in your ways hold me away like wings, spilling. I look over my shoulder, your image suspends me in suspense. No, suspends me exactly as I am. If I could suspend and suspend suspension, recall like a return among countless returning returns. If you could sit me down and sit by my side, lay me down and lie by my side, lie and wake and touch, a drawn loneliness pointing toward an empty spot in a world of nothingness. When I follow my hand and walk, it's as if I could simply pass through you, as if I could get to know you a little. The reason my breathing burns into a suffocating cinder that feels like stone, it can only be felt as stone, is not you, but this pocket of reality. You amaze always out of view. I stand behind your eyes and wait for you like I'm standing by for an afternoon to be drowned in a deluge. I grit my teeth, grit until I fail with exhaustion, and somehow from yourself at last you arrive. The next I'll read some poems from us. I don't know how to read the title. It's like, it can be like Summer Crush, but it could also be Simmer Crush, Summer Crush, or Summer Crush. But I dedicated it to all who desire with curiosity and courage, because I think in my experience with desire, I think it's always worth following the thread of desire, because even if you end up not getting the thing you wanted, or I don't know, whatever that consummation is, you end up learning a lot about yourself, and I think it ends up helping you get closer to who you are meant to be, or want to be, or expands possibilities. So I've become very pro exploring desire. This is split into two parts. One is summer stories, and the other one is kind of riffs on a folktale about a Korean folktale about a snail ride. So I will read you some of the summer poems, and then I'll do a quick costume change, and then I'll read poems about the snail ride. Summer crush. I'm waiting for my summer crash to warm into my hollow heart, to clown through my tart temple, to wolf up my burst from, to simmer this little sumptuous spleen, to crash the skull crawling for me. And also these are sestets, or summer sestets. There's this amazing poet named Emily Barth Brown, and I'm getting to work with them for my project with Nightboat, and they're one of my editors, and they're great. But last June, they shared a Google Doc titled Summer Sestats 2024 with a prompt, in June we write sestats. If you want an extra challenge, maybe try 6-word lines as well, or 6 syllables, but honestly do whatever suits you. And so a lot of these poems just came out in that month of June. So a lot of them are different forms of sestats. Meet me in Slough City. 6 summer sickos saunter Slough City, sift spring softness, silk, slacker, slick, slot, sham, asunder, super, slut, shimmer. So soft and silly, cinder cell mates up. Same, semi-sim, super sun, slay, snuff, slit, snore, sash, seeds. And last summer it was the 100th death anniversary of Kafka, and so I wrote a poem about that. Happy Death Day, Franz. Sorry I'm late to your 100th. I was constipated emotionally and ontologically. your wings, Franz. I haven't, but I feel them gnawing within me, wanting a cage. Thoughts of a weedy, creeping vine on a Monday night. I was thinking about my relationship to desire and possibility, and how sometimes I see the future bloom, arcs of life lived impossibly well, full of joy, curiosity, and pleasure, to be at liberty at will. The next one is titled Summer Social Media Dance Challenge, because it is inspired by 2 Summer Social Media Dance Challenge songs. And I'm trying to get myself to the point where I can actually do one of the dances and perform them for you one day. Parch soup, tamaluku, hot like electric frogs, songs stuck in my neck skull, it's time to go to bed. Mr. Agashi, please sleep, I cry into my phone. Then I will introduce the next part before I read some of the Snail Bride poems. Part 2, The Snail Bride. These poems knot around a truly twisty Korean folktale from South Chungcheong Province called Wang, or The Snail Bride. According to Wikipedia, in one version of the story, a river snail falls in love with a human farmer. She lives in a jar and only comes out in human form to prepare meals for him in secret while he is asleep or away working in the rice fields. Advanced snail hydrogel eye patch. You're welcome to the channel. I've got some finishing touches. Wow, this beautiful touch. What's your name? Already 20, still unglad, still tilling. All this seed to what end? All this toil for who toils? Who will eat this mild rice with me? I don't want to be an unattended bachelor. I will. I said I would. Farm boy was longing, so was I, in my grudging opalescence, wingless ballast, bodies spiraling semi-aquatic and indifferent to fluorescence. When he prayed for prandial partnership, I slid it from my hard fate, shouted to the heavens, I will. He didn't see me. Farm boy heard me, didn't see me. By a split twinkling my tentacles, I will, please don't crush me. Took pity on my rock body, scooped me into his rough hands, took me home, my home. Then I took my clothes off. In this version of the story, she slides, steps out of jar, unclothed because no one is around. She cooks, cleans, dusts, irons, sexes, leaves out supper, brings a nail, steeps inside jar to her invisibility. I'm here. You found me, fluoxetine blue, orange. You glad you found me here? Rolling my eyes, flipping my lids, turning myself inside out, slow verse, spiraling out and in.